Hey guys, Brittany here. Um, this is the first video in a series that I want to make. Um, I want to give you like um, a deeper dive book review and present a food associated with that book. There's so many wonderful stories that we all, you know, listen to and or read or however you consume your literature, and a lot of the time those stories have very rich foods or cultural foods for the setting of the story. And I don't know about you, but me at least, I'm a big foodie. I'm trained as a chef, and I want to eat these things sometimes. I love trying new foods. And there's already like cookbooks for like the real popular ones, like the Hunger Games cookbook or something like that, but you don't see it for everything. So I just wanted to present that. So today I want to dive into the Children of Blood and Bone series, or the Children of Orisha series, as it's known. Primarily, I want to talk about the first two, Children of Blood and Bone and Children of Vengeance and Anarchy. These are like the main two everybody reads. Anyway, there is a third book, Children of Anguish and Anarchy. I have not finished it yet, but it's kind of like a different, like it's the same people, it's the same cast and stuff, but it's a different story. So like you don't necessarily have, like, this doesn't have to be talked about today. But we're gonna dive into the first two, the core two of the series. The food I decided to go with for this book is jollof rice. It is a West African dish, which is where the series is kind of set in, like a fictional West African world, and it's pretty important to one of the main characters, Zaylee. She mentions quite often throughout at least the first book the smell of jollof rice, or the memories that jollof rice brings to her in accordance with her mother. And I figured that would be a great recipe to use because it literally connects with the character. So jollof rice is a traditional dish in West Africa, and there's like multiple variations of this. It's one of those types of recipes where it's like, my granny makes it this way, and well, my mom makes it this way, well, my cousin makes it this way. There's plenty of options and variations, and there's not necessarily one tried and true way to make it. Everybody is going to say that their way is the best. But outside of the little differences in spices and volume and, steps, like in order of operations for the recipe, there are a couple of things that seem to be like pretty universal. So one is going to be the rice that you use. Generally, parboiled rice is the way to go. And that's like a regular long grain rice that has already been boiled some, and it changes the structure of the rice a little bit so that when you go to use it again, that rice isn't going to stick together as bad from the natural starches, and you won't have like a mushy rice, because this dish takes a good while. It's a one pot dish and it takes a good while to cook. So you don't want it to be like mushy and like, stuck together and gloopy. You kind of want those grains of rice to be defined. You could also use, I've seen recipes using um, jasmine rice a lot, but it seems like it's like parboiled rice or jasmine rice is the way you want to go. I'm sure if you made this all the time and you were in a pinch, you could use regular enriched rice or something like that. The texture will just be different. Um, as far as parboiled and regular enriched rice, there isn't much of a price difference. So, like, I don't think you would need to like skimp out on getting parboiled. Now, jasmine and regular rice, there tends to be price differences. So at that point, it's like whichever rice is better for your wallet, use it. um, the other thing is the peppers. So there's usually bell pepper in it, which is easy, totally accessible. And then a lot of recipes have a Scotch bonnet pepper, which is a particular pepper for the region that is like super spicy. That might be a little bit harder to find in your regular grocery store, so you can substitute it out for an habanero. Um, but you know, the level of spice is going to be a little bit different. Also, if you just don't want crazy spice, switch to, you know, down a little bit to a habanero. Totally fine. But most often they go with the Scotch bonnet. I can put a link to some dehydrated Scotch bonnet that you can find on Amazon. Also look around your area, see if you have an international food store or an African store. I was actually lucky in my area to find a African grocery store that had the things that I needed. While they didn't have any fresh or dehydrated Scotch bonnets, the lady behind the counter helped me and said that this would work really well. These Cameroon peppers, I looked it up and it's the same pepper genius as Scotch bonnet. It basically is a Scotch bonnet. Tricky thing about peppers is a lot of peppers are the same pepper. They're just considered different because they're at a different stage in their growth cycle. But she said this was good, and then she said only use a little. It's really spicy. So hopefully I don't burn my tongue off, because it's really easy to burn my tongue off because I look like this. I'm vapor white. A good alternative. The other thing is there's a specific type of bouillon that they use for this type of dish, and it's called a Maggi cube. Now there's different kinds of flavors. There's like vegetable ones, chicken ones, seafood ones. There's these star ones. And I'm sure you could change the bouillon depending on which protein you want to serve with your rice. I just got the star seasoning because I've never worked with this. You can alternatively use, you know, whatever regular bouillon. But since I had the store near me and I wanted to try the authentic Maggi cubes with it, I went with the Maggi cubes. These weren't very expensive. You can also get these off of Amazon, which I can get a link for. But again, you can substitute it out. The recipes, when I was looking up recipes, they even gave multiple like substitution options. So to make your jollof rice, all the ingredients you will need are 1 bell pepper, pre-cut up. This was in my freezer. 2 tomatoes. These were also in my freezer, and you might want to quarter them. 1 onion, quartered. 3 cloves of garlic. Your dried or fresh Scotch bonnet. Dried or fresh ginger. And about 100 milliliters of water. Those initial ingredients you're going to want to put in the blender and puree them until they are smooth. It will look something like this. Then you will also need a diced onion, 150 milliliters of vegetable oil or olive oil, some curry powder, some thyme, 150 grams of tomato paste, 3 of the Maggi cubes, 2 bay leaves, 3 cups of broth. I did half beef broth and half chicken broth, sea salt and white pepper to your taste, and then 3 cups of your parboiled or jasmine rice, and make sure you rinse your rice. In a hot Dutch oven or pot, you're going to pour your oil and your onions. You're going to let that heat up and cook for a few minutes until they are translucent. That might take 3 to 5 minutes depending on how hot your pot gets. It should look like this when you're ready to move to the next step, which is going to be adding that puree from earlier. And we're going to just cook it down for a while until it changes color. Not sure if you can see through the steam, but we've changed color. It's a little bit darker. And it got a little thicker too. We're going to begin adding the rest of our ingredients now. This is going to be everything except for the rice. Mix everything together, and then we are going to cover it and bring it to a boil. Once it's reached a boil, we're going to add our rinsed off rice to it. Stir it until it's well incorporated, and bring it to another boil, at which point we're going to turn our heat down to low. Then cover it and cook for 45 minutes, stirring occasionally. Okay, so while that's cooking, let's dive into this book breakdown. The Children of Orisha series is by author Tomi Adeyemi. Also, I've practiced the names, but if I pronounce things wrong, I'm sorry. It is a West African-based story that follows 4 main characters, and it switches between their point of views. It's 2 sets of siblings. You have Zayli, you have Zane, you have Amari, and you have Enan. Zayli and Zane are 2 siblings that live in like a fishing village. And something really important to note and brought on early in the book is that Zayli is a magi. And magis have white hair. It's part of what identifies them. They were given magic as a gift from the gods. And at the point in the story where you are, magis are like discriminated against as like a minority, basically. There was a raid that happened, and the king of their country found a way to like get rid of magic. So he basically destroyed magic and then had a genocide basically against all magi that were after a certain age. So only the children were left. And it's been like 6 years, I believe. 6-ish years since that raid that the story starts. And Zayli is one of these magi children, and unfortunately she had to witness the death of her mother in this raid. So she has a lot of resentment and everything, understandably so, towards the king of the kingdom and the choices he made. And then Zane is her brother. He is not a magi. He is what they call a Cosiden? That's the one name I didn't look up how to pronounce. But which is basically like he's like a regular citizen. So in their own relationship, in their own family, you see the differences in how they're treated, though he's not treated like amazingly because he's related to a magi. But you start with them in their fishing village, and then they go on to go sell some fish because they need money, because the guards are being extra asses to them because they're magi, and they're like, hey, we want, you know, we need extra taxes from you because we fucking feel like it, basically. So they go to sell this fish. In the process, they run into Amari, who is the princess of the nation. And Amari's just seen some like crazy shit go down from her dad, and she decides to steal this scroll that can give Magi their magic back that her dad has found. And she steals it, and in the process runs into Zaylee as she's running from guards, and Zaylee takes her in. And Amari's brother, Inan, he is like the head of like the guards responsible to like bring her back, because like if the Magi get this scroll, they're gonna get their magic back, and then like that's not great. Not great for the king anyway. So because he knows there would be an uprising, and Amari's like, it's not right to kill these people for being what they are, which is totally true. And it starts off this chain of events, and where Amari, Zane, and Zaylee are going to travel together, and then they find a way to bring magic back, basically, and then at the bare minimum stop Magi's being discriminated against. And I think what the story stands for is really great against that oppression and racism, really addressing like the hatred against a minority of people for like kind of nothing. Like, the king says it's because Magi are bad and they're destructive and they're whatever, but it's really like you just have a power like you can't access, and you want to control instead. And I like what the core story stands for. She did a really great job with what she was trying to tell. But there are like some pros and some cons to the story. So I'm going to break the pros and the cons down. The pros is the world building. Oh my gosh. You don't always see like a world set in like African culture. And to like, it really takes you to like another place, because like in most fantasy you're getting like medieval like dragons, swordsmen, knights, thieves, like your generic like, and this is like a whole unique world, and I love that. I also love that it's one of the books that has a map in it. I love it when a book has a map, especially when they're gallivanting all across it, because sometimes I need to look and see, wait, how far was that from there? When did they go there? They went there from here? How did they, so like, I like to be able to look back at the maps. So I love that there's a map in the book that you can reference. And the mythology, the African mythology that she brings into it, is great. I love mythology. I'm a mythology buff. But I feel like a lot of like your standard like mythology books that have like a little bit of every mythology or whatever in them don't portray like the African myths very well. Whereas I feel like everybody's so used to like Greek mythology or Norse mythology or whatever. That's always like crammed down your throats. So I love that it brings that mythology and that culture, and like, I think it's fantastic. It just really brings you into another place. Another pro is the magic system itself that she set up in this world. You have incantations and stuff like you would maybe in another fantasy series, but the fact that it's specifically, they say the incantations in Yoruba, I think is how you say it, the language, is like a nice touch, because like, you know, normally it's like Latin, or it's just like a riddle in English or whatever. So I love that it's like furthering into that culture of like, okay, not only are we in West Africa, but then this specific West African language is for the magic and helps connect you to your deity and whatever. And then the way like she describes how the magic flows and feels, and like the way that she describes that it's not always easy either to just do it. Like, just because you have magic doesn't mean like you're just have a fireball in your hand. Like, it's something you really have to like practice and feel and connect with yourself and this, you know, your deity that is associated with your clan, and like how elders pass that knowledge down, the different types of magics. So there's multiple clans in the book. I'm not gonna butcher all their names. It's nice because you have, you know, you have your earth, your water, your air, your fire, like normal, but then you have, you know, magi of life and death, which are reapers. You know, they can bring spirits and use them to help them fight, or also, though, it's a power to help those spirits pass on, um, which is beautiful, because it's like, you know, I'm whatever's tying you here, like I'm helping you be free from it. Then you have connectors, and they're like, they can like get into your mind, but then it's like, which is like really scary to think about, but also they can get into your mind in like beautiful ways, and they can build like this dreamscape that you can escape into and literally connect with other people in their minds that way. And then you have, you know, you have lighters. So that's somebody that can, you know, bring light or take light away, and which has its own advantages and things. I don't think they utilize lighters too much though in the series. Um, at least up until the third book. I don't know, maybe you see, I think one here or there, but they're not like the biggest members. And then you have like healers, but on the same thing in the same clan, not only are there healers, but there's cancers, and those are people that are able to give you a disease or give you cancer or something like a pestilence that you can die from. But on the other hand, there's, you know, people that are more versed in healing and can heal you and stuff. And you have the magi of time. So they're like seers. They can see prophecy and, you know, your destinies and things like that. One of the key characters is a seer, and she's really important. She's like this mother figure, and oh, just the way I picture her too. I picture her as this like plump, like stern but like motherly woman, and I'm like, I just want to hug her. Like the whole time, I like anytime I read her, I'm like, I feel like I need a hug from her. um and then you have tamers. They they can talk to animals and tame them, and like basically convince them to like work with them and stuff like that. One of the other cool things I think in this book is that, like I mentioned earlier, Magi's have like this snow white hair, and traditionally it marked them as like, you know, blessed by the gods. And then now where we are in the story, it's basically like a mark of like shunning, like, I don't, you're a magi, like, ew, like, get away from me, you rat, you know? Um, so I love how it's like, depending on the time and the situation, like, these things, are either good or bad. It's, you're having this white hair is good, or having this white hair is bad. it's subtle, but if you're paying attention, like, is like a background thing that you notice when you're reading, because I believe at the beginning of the story, Zaylee's hair it's white, obviously, but it's like straighter. And then once she acquires her magic and her journey like moves, it could just be that she's not styling it that way to fit in anymore. But there is attention brought to the fact that her hair is coils now, and it's getting like, you know, I don't want to say kinkier, but it's getting like natural into her natural, like, big, voluminous hair. And as it goes through the story, it like coincides with her, like, in her magic coming and then utilizing her magic and learning her magic. So it's like becoming more of herself, whereas herself prior was trying to fit in as the best that she could given her circumstances. And then when other characters get magic in the book, there's similar descriptions, like, oh, their hair is getting curlier, it's getting wavier, it's getting more unruly. And I just thought that was such a neat little detail that maybe some people wouldn't pick up on, but that, like, when you pick up on it, like, I think it's just really cool, and I like that she put that in there. Then the way she built the afterlife, there is a spoiler portion in the story where Zaylee's basically dead. She's a reaper, and she's really strong on top of that. So she has a connection with the dead anyway. But there's a point in the story where she is essentially dead, and for Zaylee, it's it's a bit of a relief, but it's described as this beautiful landscape and like the reeds and the clouds and the dream world that she enters various times throughout the story is also like it's reeds and it's whatever. So it's very similar in description, but it just sounds like very beautiful. And the last pro I want to talk about is the family dynamics and the sibling dynamics, because it's two sets of siblings and it's two very different sets of siblings. So Zaylee and Zane, they are siblings, and he's her older brother, she's the younger sister, but they're close, like they come together, like they will protect each other, they like that is like their mission. They don't want to lose any more family members. They want to just they trust each other to a level that is like nothing can come in between that trust. It's the like closest of sibling relationships that you can have. Whereas Amari and Inan's relationship isn't as close. They've actually been kind of pitted against each other since childhood by their dad, who's a fucking dick. But they want to be close. Like they both have like a kindness to them that like they want to be. They don't want to fight each other, but they keep having to fight each other, and there's a lot of distrust there. So it's like you have these parallels of these brother and sister relationships, but they're like almost the total opposite of each other. And the way like they process through grief and things that just happen to them in this story is like very different. Now let's get into some of the cons with this series. Series is, well, this is kind of a pro and a con. So it's fast paced, which is kind of great if you are trying to come out of a reading slump and you want something that kind of just grabs you and like is easy to go through and finish. So like on one hand, the fast pace is great because I was in a little bit of a reading slump before these books, and it pulled me in with the world and the magic system and, you know, to want to finish it. And like, it didn't feel like it was like dragging me through it. But on the other hand, it's fast paced to the point where I feel like certain things get overlooked in the plot, or certain things could have been fleshed out more in the plot. The author has been noted to say that like Avatar: The Last Airbender was one of her like inspirations, and you can see that in some of the dynamics and some of the like banter or things or whatever dialogue. And you can see it kind of in how it's paced, because like Avatar: The Last Airbender, especially like the first season or whatever, like is like a pretty fast paced story. Like you feel like they're jumping from place to place or whatever, and they jump from place to place in this, but like that was also like a TV show that could, even though they were jumping from place to place, they could like flesh out more. And I feel like certain things should have been more fleshed out than they were, especially because when you get to the end of like book two, you're like, okay, that was actually kind of fast that we got here to this war over the capital and these you know, decisions or whatever. And then the way it ends, and then how you start in book three, I think the fast pace of it is what makes it feel like when you're in a whole nother like basically storyline in book three, it makes it contributes to how it feels like you got slapped in the face. You're like, why are we in this? Why, how did we get here? Like that's kind of how it feels. So like I feel like it takes from the story. With how fast paced it is sometimes. Along with the storyline being fast, I think that contributes to the next con a little bit, and it's that these characters make some dumb decisions. Or they're a little irrational with certain things. And on one hand, they're teenagers. So I think Miss Haley is like 17, and Amari, yeah, they're all around like that 17 year age. On one hand, you got to think like they're not fully emotionally developed, right? I'm a freaking adult. Obviously, I can look at a situation and be like, I would do that differently. And maybe if I was a kid, still I wouldn't be as like annoyed by certain decisions that they made. But they make certain irrational decisions, or like they jump the gun on certain things like too fast. And I think part of that is just the personalities of these characters, and part of that is the rushing of the story and the fast pacedness of the story. I feel like if certain things were fleshed out more, maybe the characters wouldn't act that way. And I do love a character. I love a character that has character flaws. I don't want my character to be perfect. So on one hand, I like it, and on another hand, it's really frustrating. Like Zaylee, she has so much anger and so much hate, justifiably. Like, not saying like she has her right to how she feels, and it's definitely justifiable. But she lets that anger and that hate cloud her like decisions sometimes. And there were multiple times in the book where I was like, shut up. Like let's not necessarily get over this because you have a right to be mad. Like her and Amari, their relationship, she gives Amari such a hard time just because Amari was born royal. And Amari's telling her to her face, like, I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to hate Magi. I want to help you guys. And there's like a good couple of chapters where she's like, yeah, right. You're just a royal bitch. Like, and it's just like, oh, pun intended. But she's like, yeah, right. Like, you don't know. I'm just gonna, like, 10 toes down, hate you. because of what your dad did. And then it's like, but give her a chance. Like, she's telling you the truth. Like, she's obviously, and then at the same time, Amari makes some dumb decisions because she thinks that everything can be done peacefully. And while, yeah, you want everything to be done peacefully, it's the real world and not everybody is going to fall in line with it. So Amari makes a bunch of dumb decisions where it's like, maybe you and Zaylee should have just talked before either of you made the decisions you made. And it can be very frustrating. The same thing with Inan. He has a big struggle with doing what is right. He's been told his whole life by his abusive dad, basically, that, like, you have to do what you have to do for your country. And Magi are disgusting, and Magi are the dirt on our shoes, and, like, you can't give them an inch or they'll take a mile, and all this other stuff. So you see him struggle with what he sees in front of him as, like, not bad people, but then what he's been told his whole life. And that war within him makes him make stupid decisions, or he just thinks he's making decisions for the greater good, but they're really not. They're really selfish, and they're really, like, chickeny ass decisions, because, like, he could have literally killed his dad like 3 times in this book and solved everybody's fucking problems, right? And he doesn't. And I know part of that is that parental, like, bond, but part of it was just like, you're dumb, because if you were listening to your dad and, like, doing what was best for this country, you would have killed your dad like 5 chapters ago, bro. Like, that's but then I guess we wouldn't have the story that we had. But there was definitely plenty of situations where Zaylee, Amari, and Inan, like, almost pissed me off. Along with Zaylee and her anger, she's so quick to feel everything that she feels so intensely. She puts a lot of blame on herself. I think she feels like a lot of imposter syndrome, which is also nice in a way, because normally a hero is just like, yep, I'm the hero, and then they just do it and they never second guess themselves. But she second guesses herself almost to a fault. And again, it makes certain decisions that she makes be the wrong decision in that moment, because she didn't believe in herself at all, or thought that she was, like, an imposter, or how can the whole world be on my shoulders. And, you know, fair. That's a fair thing to stress about. But it was almost there was a point in the second book where you're like, I think it was like 2 chapters, 3 chapters, where, like, she's just sitting there hating on herself instead of doing something. Like, at this point, like, okay, where's that anger at? We need that anger back now. And then I guess along with their bad decisions and things, it was there was so much lack of communication. Like I said earlier, if Amari and Zaylee just talked about certain things before they made the decisions they made, I feel like things would have went differently. There was also a lot of lack of communication with Inan and Zaylee, because he's saying, like, I'm gonna do these things and I'm gonna change the world, but then he makes decisions that are counterintuitive to that, and then but never explains why. He does, like, a shitty job of explaining why, but then Zaylee's always quick to anger anyway, so I don't even know if she would have allowed him to explain, because she just decides, nope, okay, you're a piece of shit, you're an asshole, like, you lied to me. And in some instances, yeah, he just kind of lied. In other instances, no, he's just stupid. He just made a stupid decision, and there's no communicating about it. And it's very, like, once a character decides something, they either shut out other options or they shut out other characters, and it leads to these miscommunications that make me just want to, like, shake people by their shoulders. Then the last, I guess, con would be the insta love. So Zaylee and Inan are like an enemies to lover trope. Um, but they fall in love with each other so fast that it's almost like, what was the point of the enemies to lover trope? Because they both touch the scroll and I guess both get powers at the same time. And there's a shockwave that ripples through and connects them. And they both very early on like say that the other is like, in their descriptions in their first person chapters, are attractive and stuff, but they're supposed to like hate them. But then they like love each other really fast. But then with Zaylee, she's really quick to hate him really fast when things go south, but then like still loves him, and it seems really forced. And then she like latches on to another character named Rowan really fast. I think she's like hiding some of her emotions and her pain in these relationships. But like the insta love, it was like it was like out of nowhere that all of a sudden like they love each other. And I don't mind an instant love. I don't mind it. I don't mind the enemies to lovers either, but it was so rushed and like forced. It almost seems like them being in love didn't need to be a part of the relationship at all, despite the cons or the things that annoyed me. Obviously, I finished the series. I like the series. I'm doing a video on the series. So I'm not going to do a video on a book I just did not like. I just won't read it. But I do think those were things that could have been like better. I am looking forward to, there is going to be a movie. I think it's being made this year. The cast, I believe, is out already. It's a movie or a series, one of the two. And I will definitely be watching it, because maybe if it's a series especially, maybe they will flesh out some of the things that couldn't have been fleshed out or weren't fleshed out. So I am looking forward to seeing the adaptation. I definitely would read it again. It's staying on my shelf. I'm going to emboss it with my little embosser. And I recommend people read it, especially if they need a fast, like, pick-me-up read. But that's all I have on the book itself. And now let's get back to our rice. After about 40 minutes, your rice should have soaked up all the liquid that was with it. You're going to fluff your rice up. Make sure there's no burnt bits on the bottom. Some people like the burnt bits, so it's totally okay if it burnt a little bit. And then you're going to serve it up.
Like, it looks really good. With me making sure I like rinse the rice, and while it's cooking, even though you kind of want to, it's basically letting it set for like 40 minutes. You do want to go back every so often and stir it. It soaked up all that sauce that we made, and it smells really good. I can definitely understand why Zaylee had such a big connection with the spices and the smell of jollof rice, because, oh my god, it smells delicious. I wish I could let you smell this. And I tasted the sauce when I first like put everything mixed together, and I liked the taste then, so I'm excited to see it, with the rice soaking everything up. But that is good. That is like homey. Like, oh, it's so warm, and not just because it's hot, like fresh hot, but it's like, it's that the little bit of spices, the curry spice, and the dried pepper, like I was worried. I was worried that I was gonna make this like too spicy. I do not handle spice very well. The spice amount that I put in was perfect for me. It's warm. You can feel it like warming your throat and your chest, but it's not like steam coming out of my ears spice. I can definitely tell like it's going to be a spice that builds as you eat it. I'm sure if I put more pepper in it, it would be spicier right now, but I think I put like just the right amount for what I can tolerate. Hmm. And then I thought with maybe the tomato and the tomato puree on top of it, it was going to be very tomato heavy. And there's tomato there, but you can definitely like taste a little bit of everything. It like it like waves over your tongue, like the different spices. I can see why someone would have such an association, especially if it was like a family recipe passed down over time. Now, traditionally, jollof rice it can be a main dish, but it's usually a side dish, um, served with some kind of meat, beef, fish, chicken. I think like a smoked fish would be really good, especially if you're again pairing it with the book and the fact that they're from like a fishing village. And I think if you're interested in things like this, definitely give this a shot. And give this series a shot too. Even though I had like some pretty in-depth cons with it, I think overall it's a good read. And the overall message and the overall story is worth the read. I don't think it's like a waste of time or anything. I think that's it for this book and this recipe, but if you like this, tune in for more. I plan to do more videos with this kind of concept. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book, if you want to read this book now. If you have read it, what were your pros and your cons? And if you're interested in the recipe, try it out and tell me how you like it. Other than that, have a great day. Bye.